Hey everybody, welcome back. Curtis with ThatTurboDakota. So, if you notice, I didn't film any last week, and it was Easter. I was kind of juggling just day-to-day things around the house with the truck. I did get some stuff done. I'm going to show you guys. I want to talk about what I got done. I want to show you this fuse block that I found off Amazon. It was like a kit, really helped clean the back of the truck up. So we made progress. I still have to wire the alternator. Right now I'm working on swapping wastegate springs out because we are doing dome control with Holley with an onboard air compressor. What that does is it allows me to control the boost output of the turbo through this wastegate. You know, that's what wastegates do, but I can just be super accurate in how I do that. One thing about that is I don't have to run a real heavy spring in this wastegate. Now what I mean when I say that is wastegates typically external like this come with a chart with colored springs. Each of these springs are for a different base pressure, like equate to a base boost pressure. Okay, so they're colored, and basically I use this chart to figure out what my base pressure is going to be. When I was using electronic boost controller like the AM that was in the truck prior, you could double what the base spring pressure was. So for instance, if I had 10 pound spring in it, or I'm sorry, if I had a 5 pound spring in it, I could make 10 pounds. If I had an 8 pound spring, I could make 16, and so on and so forth. With dome control, I can basically put the latest spring in it I want because I'm going to be using compressed air that's going to come to the top of this wastegate to control it. So there's no sense in running a really high pressure spring. So I'm going to back it back down. I think about a 4 pound spring is what I'm going to put in it. According to this chart, for 4 pounds, it says 3.8 pounds is a red spring and a natural color spring, which is this one. These two right here, you get the outer is obviously red. This is the natural. They go in each other like this, and then they sit here in the top of the wastegate. That's simple, really no more complicated than that. Then we've got the cap. There's a plate that goes on here also that I have to be careful with. And that's that. So I'm going to put this back together real quick. We'll put the Y pipe back in the truck, and then while we're on there, I want to show you what I've accomplished. Hopefully we're not too far off from being able to move this thing under its own power again. Really not much wiring left. So let me get after it. All right, here's what we got going on. I put the external voltage regulator down there. I've got it wired up. It's ready to go. Putting TransFlow back in it. Needs a little bit of coolant still. Hooked up all our lines for our bluff valve. Had to run a line down to the wastegate for the bottom port. So we got that squared up. We'll jump up under here real quick and check out what the bottom's got going on under it. So as far as everything underneath, we've got all our wires. There's our new trans lines. I got all the wires coming down through the connector, kind of squared up, nice and neat. So that's good right now. You can see it run down the framer. I got everything kind of tied up. Dome pressure's in. It's kind of hard to see right there. All our fittings are tight. Might have to end up wrapping that a little bit with something. It never burned before, but who knows. Crossover pipes back in. Fuel tanks back in. I want to take you guys down here. So I was telling you, I got the trans fan or coolers both mounted and the lines ran. Right here, I got that thing off Amazon. That's actually a fuse and relay box. The big one on the right, the one on the left is a bus bar, and it's got a 4-gauge wire that runs all the way back here to the battery. So it's pretty nice. I'm pretty impressed with the whole thing. But, you know, nice little package. Made a little bracket to hold it nice and neat. Got all the wires hooked up for the fans. Ground's hooked up. That's pretty much what I've been working on. See that little bit of extra wire right there. I still have to put my breaker in. I have a breaker that goes between the battery and the kill switch. I never ran one before, but I don't want to burn the truck down. So I got one. So we're going to get that straightened up. That's no big deal. Hopefully we'll be ready to start this thing in the next couple minutes, so stay tuned. Okay, so it is finally to start this thing. It's been a long couple months, so what I'm going to do is give you guys a front row seat to the laptop. We're going to crank it over, see what happens. It may fire, it may not. We might have to add some fuel, make some tweaks, but here goes nothing. Okay, so we're going to key this thing on. Right there. We're going to come up to the box. Go over here. This is our idle tab. So I'm going to go to our fuel. We're going to go to our startup enrichment, and that's where we're going to start. So I went through this stuff. I'm going to go through this stuff again just real quick. And then we'll go to the gauge. Okay, here goes nothing. Wish us luck. Here we go. Wow, I'm impressed. So she's idling really, really rich. So we'll have to trim some fuel out of it. You can see up here in the left-hand corner, 12 O's. 12 O's is a lot, but that's okay. Things I'm going to keep an eye on is coolant temperature. You can see right here in the center. Not really care about any of this other stuff. Let's change this. Let's change this real quick. So instead of oil temp, we'll change that over to oil pressure. Looks like our battery. So our battery voltage, I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work, but if you see down here, the bottom left hand where my mouse pointer is, we're charging about 14.6, 14.7. So it's actually not too bad. It looks like we got 60 pounds of oil pressure, we got 45 pounds of fuel pressure. The idle air motor is open a little bit too much. 70% is really, really high, so we're gonna have to do something about that, but that's okay. I still have to set the timing and stuff. So far, everything looks pretty good. Not too bad, not too bad. So watch it as our coolant temperature comes up. I'm gonna keep a close eye on coolant temp. Might go over here to the fuel graph. Definitely need some fuel pulled out of it. You know, like this, that, and the blue is control. We'll pull a little fuel out of her. She was awfully fat. Gotta change my. I don't want to kill it. I'm gonna end up putting a set of plugs in it anyway, so it's not a big deal. Learn tuning. So we are still fat. So all I'm doing right now, guys, is I'm just getting her a little bit leaned out. 12 O's is pretty excessive. So we'll lean out the main fuel map. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the startup enrichment. After start enrichment, decay rate, and after start, hold on. So that's fuel modifiers, coolant temp. That's another thing I can do is I can go into here. We can pull a little bit out of the coolant temp. So I pulled a couple percent out of there. A couple out of here. I'm trimming it out just a little bit. Nothing real crazy. You got to remember that it's barely roughed in. Actually, I'm impressed that it started the way it did. So let's see, coolant temp's up to 113. At some point, let's see where it's at here. It's gonna switch over to learn mode. Enable closed loop. So we gotta enable learn mode, and then we'll enable closed loop. So let's see, closed loop is on right now, but we are not in learn mode quite yet. So if you see down here on the left hand side, it says closed loop status in green. It's pulling out 20, it's trimming out 20%, which, you know, we knew it was running fat. But it is not into learn mode yet. But that's no problem. We'll get that squared up. The gain, I might have to adjust that base fuel learn gain. I can't remember what that's for, so let's do this. Let's look at it real quick together. See if it pops up here. There it goes. So, closed loop, parameters, gain, experience. Okay, so, oops, that was a mistake. So we're gonna change this. I'll change this to like 50%. Oh, you know, it would definitely help if I was calmed up to the thing. It must have kicked me out. All right, let me reset the thing real quick. All right, so we're calmed up again. That was a pretty good start. Pretty good, pretty good. Not too bad. There we go. Okay. So let's see. So we're still idling really fast. Woo! That's a lot. I'll tell you what, we'll go back to our base map here. I'm gonna trim some more fuel out of it. So as I pull fuel out of this thing, we should watch the closed loop compensation start to come around. Oh, I tell you what, I'm lying to you, because our coolant temp isn't to a point yet where the truck's warm enough. That is going to bring us out of that. Yeah, we're at 155 right now. So that's back in this coolant modifier table, if I do remember. Yeah, so once it gets up past 100, just means it's doing what it needs to do on its own. Okay, so it needs to get up to at least 165, 170 before it'll start running off the main fuel map. Because right now it's stuck in this coolant temperature enrichment map. But again, this stuff now, I'm just kind of cleaning up now. When you do this, everything stacks off this base fuel map. So I've got to get this straightened out before we can go back and do this other stuff. So what I'm doing right now is just temporary, just to kind of lean it out. But I am going to continue to mess with this a little bit. You guys don't want to watch this, it's not going to be fun for you. And then we'll come back and I'll show you how to adjust the throttle, and we'll check the timing and stuff. So, exciting. First start went really well. I'm really happy with it. See you guys in a bit. Well, and like that, she is back on the ground under her own power. Everything seems to be doing pretty good. I've got the tune roughed in enough that I can move it around. I did end up changing the oil, check the trans fluid in it. I had a little thing going on with the coolant temperature sensor because I couldn't find the piece of paper that had the scaling. What I mean when I say that is there's a piece of paper that basically says negative 40 degrees to like 300, and then has corresponding resistance to what the computer needs to see, and then I input that stuff on the laptop in the Holley. And so I was kind of fighting it for a while, and I got on Low Dollar's website, and I thought I had it, and I put it in, and it wasn't wrong, so I checked a bunch of stuff. Come to find out, the sensor I have is actually discontinued, and the sensor that I was getting the information on was the current one. So once I found the discontinued sensor on the website and then scrolled down to the bottom, looked at everything I needed, put the information in, we're good to go. So I've got the interior, if you couldn't tell, interior is fully back together. I've got to find a piece of trim for the A-pillar and around the steering columns. That'll be a junkyard thing. But for the first time in a very long time, we are back on the ground, and this thing is getting ready to move under its own power. Wish me luck. Alright guys, she's out on her own power. I still have a couple more things I need to do to get this thing ready to be driven on the street. I'm going to verify timing one last time, check the fluids again, but it is so nice to see all 4 tires on the ground. Absolutely amazing. Cool. Okay, here's the deal. Had the truck running last night, started to move it around, pulled it out of the garage, checked all the fluids, kind of got it out in the driveway, and I noticed it was misfiring. So brought it back up the driveway, started pulling injector wires off while it's running, and that's a good way to, a fast way to figure out where your miss is. As you pull the injector wire off, you should hear the motor change in pitch. Got all the way around to number 5 over on the driver's side, no change. So okay, no big deal. First thing I did is take a test light, check for injector power, injector at power, then go ahead and immediately pull off the plug wire. When I pulled off the plug wire, it broke. So I thought that was it. Go down to the auto parts store, get a plug wire, stick on it, still missing. Pull off the, injector wire again while it's running, no change in pitch. So I'm like, well, it can only be so many things. It was running fine with the AM. Obviously it's something I did with the wiring. So I pulled out the J2B connector where all the injectors are. D-pin it for number 5, put my meter on it, and no continuity, OL, from the meter, or the inside to the plug wire. So take the bulkhead connector, unlock it, pull it out, and sure enough, well, let me just show you. Check this out. Hopefully you guys, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. It's way down in there. Maybe not. So you can see my connector from here, if you can see it. I know it's kind of hard, but what happened basically was the pin for number 5 is not there. So what that tells me is I didn't have it seated fully in the back side of that connector, and it pushed out. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is, unfortunately, I may or may not have to pull the dash back out. I was gonna see if I could cheat it, maybe go in through the radio, but I highly doubt it. I don't know if the dash is gonna have to come completely out. I just have to get to the back side of that bulkhead on that side, take my insert tool, and push the thing back through if everything's okay, which also sucks because I've already booted them with that heat shrink boot. So hopefully maybe I'll get lucky and I can pull it off and just push it back on. But yeah, so that's where we stand. Just want to give you guys a little update. The joys of wiring when you've never used bulkheads for the first time. Well, I guess it is time for me to start tearing some stuff apart, guys. Wish me luck. Okay, guys, I got it. It was a pain in the butt. It sucks because I had to cut off the boot on the thing. I took all that time and booted the backside just to help it out. You can see in there, way back in there, once this thing focuses. There it focuses. But I got it. Not fun at all. But you live and you learn. So it's probably going to take me another, half an hour or so, get this dash back up and all the connections back in it. Then we'll fire this thing back up and it should be hitting on all 8. All right, she's back outside, hitting on all 8 now, guys. We'll fire her up real quick. That sounds way better. Cool. That makes me happy. Okay, well, what I'm gonna do now is I have to rough this tune in a little bit, so I'm going to run this thing down the street. I'm not going to take you guys with me just quite yet. Once I get it to the point where I'm happy with it, then I don't have to worry about it or make any adjustments while I'm driving, and I'll take you guys with me. But making progress. This only the second time this thing's seen daylight, in a couple months. So let me run this thing down the road and check back in and let you know how it goes. All right, so Sunday, and I was going to take you guys for a ride, but unfortunately I put like 15 or 20 miles on it and went to the gas station, and when I went to shift from first to neutral, the truck continued to move forward. So I dropped the trans pan, as you can see, my catch pan underneath there. Don't see anything obvious in the pan. The rear band looks okay. So I guess I'm going to pull the trans out. That's unfortunate. I think it's been together for 2 years now. I don't know how many times I took it to the track, so I'll be really curious to see what I find once I pop it open on the bench. But I kind of cleaned up my garage. It was a hot mess. So I got more room in here, and that's where I'm going to end this one off. Next one you guys will see is me pulling the trans out and putting it up on the bench. We'll tear it apart and see what's going on. Thanks for watching. See ya.